The moon base of Varus 9 was supposed to be quiet. The war between the Terran Defense Corps and the Xeran Dominion had stopped after the peace treaty. Soldiers had returned to their posts and the broken cities were being rebuilt. But the scars of war never faded quickly, and even during peace both sides watched each other with deep mistrust. Lieutenant Mara Vance, a human soldier from Earth, was known for her calm nature. She did not shout like other officers, nor did she lose her temper easily. Her fellow soldiers often said she was too kind for a battlefield. They called her the innocent one. When she treated a wounded enemy once, her commander had scolded her, but she only replied, "A life saved is still a victory." It was early morning when the alarm blared through the Varus 9 outpost. The communication lines picked up a faint distress signal from the border zone, an old Xeran medic camp. The message was filled with static, but one thing was clear: help. Under attack. Mara was on duty in the control room. The officer in charge hesitated. The ceasefire was fragile. If humans crossed the border without proof, it could break the peace. But Mara's eyes focused on the flickering red signal. She felt something wrong. "Let me go," she said quietly. "If it's a trap, I'll know." Her superior gave a reluctant nod. "You have 1 hour. No backup until confirmation." Mara suited up in her gray combat armor, her helmet shining faintly under the station lights. Her AI assistant Rook powered up inside her visor. Vitals stable. Weapons locked. "Please remember, Lieutenant, diplomatic territory ahead." She smiled faintly. "I'll be careful, Rook." Her small transport pod lifted off the base and crossed the barren gray plains of Varus 9. Dust storms swirled outside, covering the burned remains of war machines left behind by both sides. She saw the shattered towers of human outposts and the melted domes of alien bases. The silence felt heavy, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. After 30 minutes, she reached the signal's location. The medic camp looked deserted. Broken tents flapped in the wind. Medical crates were scattered across the dirt. A strange smell lingered in the air, a mix of burnt fuel and something metallic. She stepped out carefully, scanning for signs of life. "Rook, record everything," she ordered. The AI blinked green on her visor. "Recording active. Thermal scan detects no movement." But then she heard something faint, a weak moan. Following the sound, she found a small crater where a Xeran nurse lay injured, her pale blue skin covered in ash. The alien woman tried to speak but collapsed again. Mara knelt and opened her med kit. "Don't move. I'm here to help." She injected a healing serum and tried to stabilize her pulse. Suddenly, her scanner beeped. A strange signal was pulsing nearby. High radiation levels, artificial origin. Mara frowned. "That's not medical equipment." She followed the signal into the largest tent. Inside she froze. There were no patients, only weapons. Rows of hidden explosives, sealed canisters, and a central device glowing faintly. Her visor identified it instantly. Biochemical charge. Dual-species DNA erasure pattern detected. Her heart pounded. Someone had turned this medic camp into a bomb strong enough to wipe out both armies. She activated her radio. "Command, this is Lieutenant Vance. I found..." Static. The signal was jammed. "Rook, boost transmission." Unable to comply. Signal interference at 98%. Source unknown. She realized then. It was a trap, but not for her. Someone wanted both sides to believe the ceasefire had failed. If this bomb went off, each army would blame the other, and the war would start again. A sudden sound made her spin around. A group of figures appeared at the tent's entrance. They wore medic suits, but their movements were too sharp, too military. The leader's voice was cold. "You shouldn't have come, human." Before she could respond, they opened fire. Energy bolts struck her armor, sending sparks flying. Mara rolled behind a crate, returning fire with precision. She aimed only to disable, not to kill. 2 attackers fell, their weapons sparking, but more surrounded her. She fired a smoke charge, filling the tent with gray mist. Inside the haze, she ran toward the main device. "Rook, identify control panel." 3 meters left. Biochemical ignition in progress, 30 seconds to full charge. She cursed under her breath. "They're detonating it now." She pulled off her glove and pressed her hand on the control screen. Her armor linked instantly, trying to override the detonation code. Sweat rolled down her neck as numbers flashed red. Come on, come on." Gunfire tore through the tent fabric. She ducked as energy bolts hit the walls. One of them grazed her shoulder, sending pain shooting down her arm. She screamed but kept typing. "Rook, disable failsafe lock." attempting manual bypass. Warning, critical error! With 10 seconds left, she made her choice. She reached for her plasma grenade, twisted the core, and threw it straight into the control unit. The blast shook the ground, turning the tent into a cloud of fire. The biochemical core melted before it could release the toxin. The explosion knocked her backward. Her armor absorbed most of it, but her helmet cracked at the side, blurring her visor display. The camera light flickered but stayed on. When she woke minutes later, everything was silent again. The disguised soldiers were gone, either dead or fled. The nurse she had saved earlier was still breathing faintly nearby. Mara crawled to her and covered her with her cloak. "You're safe," she whispered. Her comm crackled to life. "Lieutenant Vance, report." "What happened?" Her voice was weak. "Mission complete. Threat neutralized. Send medical evacuation." Back at the base, recovery teams arrived hours later. They found Mara sitting quietly beside the injured nurse, her armor scorched, her weapon empty. Around her lay the remains of destroyed alien tents and burnt equipment. No one else survived. When she returned, instead of medals, she was met with suspicion. The alien government accused her of breaking the peace. The Terran command received reports from Dominion scouts claiming she had attacked a medic post unprovoked. Images of the burning camp spread quickly. Her superior, Colonel Haynes, looked at her with disappointment. "Mara, they say you opened fire first, that you destroyed a neutral facility." She stood straight despite her wounds. "That's not true. My helmet recorded everything," he sighed. "The helmet was damaged in the explosion. Data integrity unknown." Days later, a military tribunal was called. The courtroom was filled with soldiers, diplomats, and alien observers. The world wanted answers. Mara stood alone in her gray uniform, hands clasped behind her back. The prosecutor's voice was loud and sharp. "Lieutenant Vance, did you or did you not fire upon a Dominion medical unit?" "I responded to an armed attack," she said calmly. "Do you have proof?" "My helmet camera recorded the truth." Murmurs filled the room. The council requested the footage to be recovered. Engineers worked day and night to decrypt the damaged device. While they waited, the media called her the angel who fell, a once kind soldier accused of turning violent. Her squadmates refused to believe it. Sergeant Kellen, her closest friend, told anyone who would listen, "She's the last person who'd harm a medic. If she fired, she had a reason." But rumors spread faster than loyalty. Even some of her crew began to doubt. Inside her cell, Mara sat alone, staring at her cracked helmet resting on the table. The once shining visor now had a long scar across it. Like a wound that would never heal, she whispered softly, "You'll speak for me." Finally, after 6 days, the tribunal hall filled again. The chief investigator stood. "We have recovered partial data from Lieutenant Vance's helmet cam. It may explain the events at Varus 9. The lights dimmed. The large screen at the front of the hall flickered with static. Mara took a slow breath. Her heart was steady. The first images appeared. Dust clouds, flashes of light, the sound of gunfire echoing through the speakers. Everyone leaned forward as the footage cleared. They could see the tent, the disguised medics drawing weapons, and Mara shouting warnings. The council gasped. What they were about to witness would change everything. Mara kept her eyes on the screen, calm and silent. She had said it from the beginning. Let the truth speak for itself. The tribunal room went silent as the helmet cam footage continued to play. The screen flickered between static and clear vision. What began as a confusing blur slowly turned into a living memory, seen through Mara's eyes. Smoke filled the medic camp. The sky burned orange from explosions. Through the lens, they saw her crawling under falling debris, calling out to anyone alive. "Is anyone here?" "I'm with the Terran Corps. Don't move, I'll help you." Her voice was calm, shaking only when another blast hit nearby. Then the view turned toward the disguised soldiers. They moved fast, wearing white medical coats but holding rifles. The leader shouted in a strange alien dialect. The translation from her AI played faintly in the background. "Human interference detected. Begin activation." Gasps spread through the courtroom. Even the Xeran delegates leaned forward, their long eyes narrowing. The footage showed the weapon core glowing brighter. The soldiers fired at Mara without warning. She dropped behind a metal table, returning shots only when necessary. The view shook violently, then focused on the bomb's control panel. Her gloved fingers flew over the keys, trying to stop the detonation. Then came her words, calm but heavy with purpose. If I can't stop it, I'll make sure it never kills anyone. The next moment, the footage caught the bright flash of her plasma grenade. The explosion drowned out all sound. When the video cleared, the camp was burning, but the toxin core was destroyed. The last part of the recording showed her crawling toward the injured Zyran nurse, lifting her gently and saying softly, "You're safe now. Stay with me." Her voice cracked near the end. Then the feed cut to black. When the lights came back on, no one spoke. The air in the room felt heavy, as if everyone had forgotten how to breathe. The lead judge, Admiral Renard, broke the silence. "Lieutenant Vance, this footage proves your actions prevented a disaster. You risked your life to protect both sides," but Mara did not smile. She simply nodded once. Peace was more important than orders. The Zyran general sitting in the front row stood slowly. His tall figure cast a long shadow across the hall. His scales shimmered faintly under the white light. "On behalf of the Dominion," he said, his deep voice trembling slightly, "we owe this human our gratitude. Without her, millions, Zyran and Terran alike, would be dead." Reporters began whispering, cameras flashing. Soldiers exchanged looks of shock and shame. The prosecutor lowered his head, unable to meet her eyes. "Lieutenant," he said quietly, I'm sorry. We judged you too quickly." Mara's answer was simple. The truth always finds its way, no matter how much dust tries to hide it. The tribunal officially cleared her of all charges. She was offered a commendation for bravery, but she declined. "No medals," she said. "Just make sure this doesn't happen again." As she walked out of the courtroom, sunlight from the base windows spilled across her armor. It was still cracked from the blast, but it shone faintly like silver under the rays. Outside, reporters called her name, asking for statements. She ignored the noise and kept walking until she reached the landing platform. Sergeant Kellen caught up to her, breathless. "You did it, Mara," everyone saw. "The whole system knows now." She smiled faintly, but her eyes were tired. They saw what needed to be seen. That's enough. The Zyran nurse she had saved, now fully healed, stood waiting near a shuttle. Her name was Telia, and her soft blue skin glowed under the twin suns. When Mara approached, Telia bowed deeply, pressing her hand to her chest. "You saved my life and the lives of my people." "I will not forget," Mara shook her head. "We save each other, Telia. That's how peace begins." That moment was captured by countless cameras. A human soldier and a Zyran medic standing side by side, their hands clasped in quiet respect. The image spread across both worlds within hours. Across the Terran colonies, soldiers who once hated the Zyrans began to question their anger. On Zyran worlds, young recruits looked at the photo and whispered, "Maybe humans aren't monsters after all." For the first time in years, there was hope, but even peace had its shadows. Weeks later, Mara was summoned to Central Command. The generals wanted her to lead a new division for joint defense cooperation. She listened silently while they spoke of honor, alliances, and new fleets. When they finished, she said softly, "If you want true cooperation, build hospitals, not warships." The room went silent again. General Ortega, an old friend of her father, gave a faint smile. "You haven't changed, Mara." "I hope I never do," she replied. When she left the meeting, she found herself back on the observation deck. From there, she could see Varus 9, the moon that almost destroyed the treaty. The scars of fire were still visible even from orbit. She placed her hand on the glass. "All this because of one lie," she whispered. "And all saved by one truth." Telia joined her soon after. She carried a small metal box. "A gift," she said softly. Inside it was a piece of melted alloy from the bomb site, shaped into a pendant. A reminder that something made to destroy can also remind us to protect. Mara accepted it with a nod. "Thank you, Telia. Keep one for yourself, too. You earned it." Together they watched the stars drift by. Two soldiers from different species, bound not by war but by understanding. Months passed. The helmet cam footage became legendary. It was studied in academies, played in classrooms, and shown in peace ceremonies. They called it the Truth File. But for Mara, fame meant little. She returned to duty quietly, choosing to serve on the edge worlds where peace still struggled to take root. There she trained both human and Zyran recruits side by side. During one training session, a young Zyran cadet asked her, "Lieutenant, how did you know they were lying that day? Everyone else thought it was a real medic camp." Mara smiled faintly. "Sometimes you don't need proof. You just listen to what your heart tells you, and you never let fear silence it." The cadet nodded thoughtfully. I'll remember that. Later that evening, as the twin suns set behind the hills, Mara stood outside the barracks watching the horizon. The peace between species was still fragile, but stronger now than ever before. She thought of the faces she had seen, the soldiers, the judges, the people who once called her guilty. None of them mattered anymore. What mattered was the lesson the universe had learned: truth can save more lives than any weapon. Her communicator beeped. It was a message from the Zirin High Council. A monument is being built at Varus 9 to honor all who sought peace. Your name will be placed first. She smiled quietly. No statues needed, she whispered. Just keep the promise. Years later, Varus 9 became a symbol of unity. The ruins of the old medic camp were turned into a peace station, a place where humans and Zirans worked together to heal war victims and study new cures. At the center of the station, under a glass dome, stood a single display case. Inside it rested the cracked helmet of Lieutenant Mara Vance, its lens still bearing the scar of the explosion. A small plaque beneath it read, "She was called innocent. The truth proved she was brave." Visitors from across the galaxy came to see it. Children pressed their hands against the glass, listening to the audio clip of her voice saying, "You're safe now." Many left in silence, moved by the courage of one soldier who chose compassion over anger. On the 10th anniversary of the event, Talia, now head of the Interspecies Medical Union, stood before a crowd of humans and Zirans. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. Peace is not born from silence or power. It begins when one person decides to do what is right, even when no one believes them. From the back of the hall, an older human woman watched quietly, her face half hidden by the hood of her coat. It was Mara. She had come without ceremony, unwilling to take the spotlight. When Talia finished speaking, their eyes met across the crowd. Both smiled faintly. No words were needed. As the hall lights dimmed, Mara turned to leave. The stars beyond the window shimmered in the distance, countless lights across endless dark. She whispered softly to herself, "Let the truth keep shining." She stepped into the night air outside the hall. The cool breeze brushed against her face, carrying the faint sound of laughter from both species mingling together. It was the sound of a future she had fought for, not with bullets but with courage. And as she walked away, the cracked helmet inside the dome caught the light from the twin moons above, glimmering like a quiet reminder that one honest act could change an entire galaxy.